Have you ever been driving down the freeway when traffic suddenly slows to a crawl? Everyone begins braking. Cars inch forward for a few minutes. Then, just as mysteriously, traffic clears up. No crash, no construction, no broken down vehicle. It's almost as if the traffic jam simply disappeared. If you have ever wondered where those phantom traffic jams come from, you are not alone. Because surprisingly, they do not need an accident to form. In fact, they can begin with just one driver. Traffic congestion costs people countless hours every year. It wastes fuel, increases pollution, and turns what should be a relaxing drive into a frustrating experience. Yet some of the worst traffic jams have no obvious cause. Transportation engineers have studied this phenomenon for decades, and the answer turns out to be surprisingly simple. Traffic behaves much more like a flowing liquid than a collection of independent cars. Once you understand that, those mysterious slowdowns start to make a lot more sense. Imagine that every driver on the road maintains the perfect speed. Everyone accelerates at exactly the same time. Everyone keeps exactly the same following distance. Everyone reacts instantly. Under those conditions, traffic will flow remarkably smoothly. But real drivers are not machines. Some react a little bit slower. Some leave larger gaps. Others brake just a little harder than necessary. Each difference seems insignificant on its own. Yet when thousands of vehicles share the same stretch of the freeway, those tiny differences begin to interact. Think of a long line of dominoes. Tipping one domino does not just affect the next one. It creates a chain reaction. Traffic works in much the same way. A driver hits the brake slightly. The driver behind reacts a fraction of a second later and brakes slightly harder. The next driver slows even more. By the time that smell disturbance reaches the 20th or 30th car, vehicles may have to stop completely. And all of that can begin with something as ordinary as a driver adjusting their speed by just a few kilometers per hour. Engineers call this a traffic wave, sometimes referred to as a shock wave. What's fascinating is that the wave itself travels backward to traffic. Even though every vehicle is moving forward, the slowdown moves in the opposite direction. That's why you can drive into heavy congestion, stop for several minutes, and then suddenly return to full speed without ever seeing what caused it. There often was not a single cause waiting ahead. The slowdown itself was moving toward you. Researchers have even demonstrated the effect in controlled experiments. On a circular test track, drivers were simply instructed to maintain a constant speed. At first, traffic flowed normally. Eventually, someone made a tiny speed adjustment. Another driver reacted, then another. Within minutes, a complete traffic jam appeared. Even though there were no exits, no lane changes, no accidents, and no obstacles anywhere on the track. The traffic jam emerged naturally from the collective behavior of ordinary drivers. It's one of those situations where everyone is acting reasonably. Yet together, they unintentionally create a problem that affects everyone else. And once that wave forms, it can persist long after the original disturbance has disappeared. Which raises another question. If these traffic waves are inevitable, is there anything drivers or even road designers can do to prevent them? Fortunately, traffic waves are not completely unavoidable. While no individual driver can control everyone else on the road, each driver can reduce the chance of making the wave even worse. Sometimes, the smallest changes in driving habits can make a surprisingly large difference. One of the biggest factors is following distance. When drivers leave only a short gap, they have less time to react. That often leads to harder braking. Harder braking creates a larger disturbance, and that larger disturbance is more likely to be passed onto the next vehicle. By simply leaving a little more space, drivers gain extra time to react smoothly instead of suddenly. Smooth acceleration matters just as much. Many people instinctively accelerate as quickly as possible the moment traffic begins moving again. But repeated over hundreds of cars, those sudden bursts of acceleration create an coordinating effect. Vehicles speed up, brake, speed out again, brake again. The stop and go cycle becomes self-sustaining. Now watch what happens as traffic begins to slow. No crashes visible. No construction crews appear. Yet more and more brake lights begin lighting up ahead. Each driver is responding to the vehicle in front. The wave continues growing as it travels backward through traffic. And eventually, traffic comes to a complete stop. Not because something dramatic happened, but because thousands of perfectly ordinary driving decisions have combined into something much larger than any one driver intended. Now comes the obvious question. If engineers understand how traffic waves form, why have they disappeared? The answer is that roads are designed with limited space. Even small increases in traffic volume can make traffic unstable. That's why transportation agencies use technologies like variable speed limits, ramp metering, and real-time traffic monitoring, rather than allowing vehicles to enter the freeway all at once. Ramp meters release cars gradually. The goal is not to slow traffic down. It is to keep traffic flowing smoothly enough that stop-and-go waves never have a chance to form. Researchers are also exploring connected vehicles. Cars that communicate with one another can react faster and more consistently than human beings. Some studies have shown that even a small number of vehicles using adaptive cruise control can reduce the severity of traffic waves. As these technologies become more common, the daily commute may become smoother, not because roads are getting wider, but because traffic itself is becoming more stable. The next time you find yourself crawling along the freeway, only for traffic to suddenly return to normal, remember that the traffic jam may never have had a physical cause at all. It may simply have been the result of thousands of ordinary human reactions interacting in ways that no single driver intended. Traffic is not just a collection of cars. It is a complex system. And like many complex systems, small reactions can sometimes produce surprisingly large consequences. If you have ever been stuck in a traffic jam that seemed to appear out of nowhere, I would love to hear about it in the comments. Have you noticed certain roads or situations where this happens most often? If you enjoy the documentary style POV driving video and want to learn the stories behind the roads we travel every day, consider subscribing for more. Until next time, drive safe, and I'll see you on the road.